Have you ever found yourself inches away from sealing the deal on a business sell, only to hit a wall when the numbers just don't line up? You're not alone. Today, we're slicing through the financial fog with some out-of-the-box strategies that can turn a standoff into a handshake. Whether you're dreaming of buying your first business or waving goodbye to your current venture, stick around as we'll unveil 6 game-changing tactics to bridge the pesky price gap and make sure everyone walks away happy. Let's dive into it and turn those deal breakers into deal makers. Today, we're diving into the exciting world of business transactions. Sometimes what the seller wants, what the buyer is willing to pay, and the real value of a business just don't match up. So don't worry. I've got some creative solutions to bridge that gap between the buyer and the seller. So grab your notepad and let's get started. Hi, I'm Trent Lee. With over 600 sold transactions under my belt, I'm the #1 business broker in the country for the most closed transactions per year, and I've done that the last 5 years in a row. I create these videos with one goal in mind: to share my experiences and my expertise so that when the time comes, whether you're looking at buying or selling a business, you'll reach out to me and I'll help you through the transaction. First up, let's talk about the real estate. If the seller owns the property and is keeping it and you're just looking at buying the business, or vice versa, if you're the seller or the buyer, one or the other, doesn't really matter. If the seller owns the property and is planning to lease it back to the buyer, here's a neat trick. You can agree to pay a bit more for rent for a while. Think about it like this. If there's a $100,000 gap between what the buyer wants compared to what the seller wants, paying an extra $1,500 a month over 5 years can smoothly cover that gap. Just make sure that the rent goes back to normal later on after you've paid off that difference and bridged that gap. Option number 2. Have you ever heard of an earnout? It's a bit like a performance bonus. If the business hits certain goals, like sales targets, the seller gets extra. It's great for products that are new to market or if sales are a bit unpredictable. Just keep it simple and clear to avoid headaches. It's usually best to tie an earnout to top-line revenue rather than bottom-line profit, as measuring and calculating the profit can get a little bit messy after the transaction. Now, if you're doing an SBA loan, earnouts are a no-no. They're not allowed. But guess what? There is something that can accomplish pretty close to the same thing. It's called a forgivable seller financing note, and it can be tied to performance. While it may sound similar, if it's structured the right way, one is allowed with the SBA and the other is not. Get with a good qualified business broker or mergers and acquisitions advisor, and they can help structure this properly so it can help you bridge the gap but still be in compliance with the SBA. Option number 3, let's chat about seller notes. It's like the seller helps finance the deal. They get a steady return, and it's easier on the buyer's wallet than high bank rates, at least high right now. Remember, these notes play a second fiddle to any bank loan, but offer some safety net for the sellers. Offering a seller carry note when there's a gap between what the buyer wants and what the seller wants may help you somehow meet in the middle to bridge that gap. Option 4 is pretty cool as well. How about hiring the seller as a consultant? This way, they get paid over time and it's a win-win. It ensures that the seller has an incentive to stay available for you as a buyer long-term and help make sure that you're successful. Plus, with some new SBA rules and changes that have recently taken place, there's more flexibility with how long the seller can stay on as a consultant. The key is to find a time period and amount that both the buyer and the seller agree upon and use that to bridge the price gap. Finally, sometimes it's not about the buyer and the seller needing to bridge the gap. Sometimes the buyer and the seller are on the same page, but the landlord won't approve the buyer. I've run into that issue a bunch of times. Let me give you one example. I had a large trampoline park for sale. the lease payment was $40,000 a month. And the buyer, while strong enough to get qualified for the SBA loan, wasn't strong enough to get the landlord comfortable to approve the lease assignment. The landlord wasn't secure in his position, the buyer's position, and wanted 12 months rent paid in advance and was basically going to kill the deal. It was so frustrating. So what did we do? Most brokers would have just walked away without any additional options to proceed, but not me. We implemented something that's called a lease performance guarantee bond. It solved the landlord's concern and was done for a fraction of the cost rather than paying 12 months rent up front. And there you have it. Navigating the twists and turns of buying or selling a business can feel like a maze, but with the right strategies and a bit of creativity, you can find your way to a successful deal. If you're feeling overwhelmed or just need a guiding hand, remember, I'm here to help. With years of experience and passion for making business dreams come true, I can provide the expertise, the support, and the creativity to get a deal done when you may have run into a stalemate. Don't let the complexities hold you back. Reach out and let's make your business goals a reality together. Until next time, keep aiming high, keep thinking smart, and be creative, and you can get deals done.